All right, so I'm seeing the connections between politics, religion, and science and institutionalized racism. Okay? Um, that will also have to do with body, mind, and spirit. And I've got to look for the connections between those two, or three, or two sets of threes. But institutionalized racism is in politics, religion, and science. And so, what is institutionalized racism? We have to really pick that word apart so people understand what it is. And it's in your face, it's in plain sight. Okay? I mean, give me 1 second. So, institutionalized racism is your profession in social services government organizations. So, when you check mark a box, hey, Walter, fill in the bubble, fill out your census form, go to college, fill out your application for social services, medical, holistic. This is what we have allowed. Okay, so what is an institution? A society or organization founded for a religious, education, social, or similar purpose. Okay, so a certificate from a professional institution. Organization, establishment, institute, foundation, center, academy, school, college, university, conservatory, seminary, center of learning, seat of learning, society, association, federation, group, circle, fellowship, body, league, union, alliance, guild, consortium, concern, corporation, an established law, practice, or custom, the institution of marriage. No, we're not going satanic. No, that we're not doing that. No. Racism is a belief, it's a definition that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, that racial difference produces an inherent, an inherent superiority of a particular race. So it doesn't matter which race. See, this is what people don't understand, is that someone assumes that they are implicating the white race as the superior race, but the black race could also have that inference that when you are racist, you are now saying that your race is superior over the other race. Okay? So a definition of racism is a belief that race is a primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. A doctrine or political program based on the assumption of racism and designed to execute its principles. Okay? So that would be in every institution out there. And so people are supporting a system of racism, and they're also rejecting the system of racism. And I don't want to call it satanic hate. No, because it's not about hate. It's also love. Okay? You can't make it so like narrow through a religious point of view, Walter, because love can also be used as a manipulation of a type of racism, because you're giving a deep feeling, a passionate feeling to something over something else. When you hate and you love something, you are saying that this is better than that. This deserves more of your attention, which is basically saying that a belief that race or your physical characteristics, because race is physical characteristics, that is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, that racial differences produce inherent superiority of a particular race. Okay? And so race is physical characteristics. If you look up another definition of race, it's physical characteristics that make up the human. It's not the culture or belief system. No, it's physical characteristics that are determining the viability of someone based upon your perception, your belief, that is much better over something else. Because people don't love everything. They love certain things. Why? Well, that makes them racist, right? Because it says that this is much better than that. I mean, when you look at it, racism is like treating people differently based upon your preferences. And then it manifests into some kind of incident, altercation, or relationship. And not all relationships are good. There are bad relationships too. Okay? And so racism really, it actually, it bleeds into politics, religion, and science. And then also the body, mind, and spirit. And then also in the fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. Okay? That's your perception. Racism isn't always about hate, Walter. Okay? Government isn't racist. They're just giving what the people want. People want to feel special. People want to feel special. They want to feel like they're different, they're set apart, that they're unique, they have something different to offer somebody. People want to be set apart. They don't want to be like everybody else. That's why they have so many interest groups. Like you have the Juggalos, and you have the Crips and the Bloods, and you have like the Mormons and the Jews and all these different groups that want to have their own doctrines, their own belief systems, their own uniqueness. They want to feel different. And so the government recognizes that people want to feel that way. And then here comes Jjust and says, you know what, I have a protocol that says, you know what, I'm not going to treat you like you're special. You're not special. Jjust is universally for everybody. But what happens is that we have a government that responds to what people want. People want to have a preference. They want to feel like they are preferential. And when you want to feel preference, it means somebody else is going to be at a disadvantage. So you can call it hate, but it all could be called love. And then that love is then going to eventually turn into hate when you can't rise up to that occasion anymore. And so we've asked for this because we have such extreme emotions about certain things over other things. And so, but, you know, we that's human nature. That's human nature. However, when it comes to understanding that people are people, and we're not our physical characteristics, but it's more than just duality of beliefs. It's about physical characteristics versus your capacity, your potential, you're fulfilling your potential. Because where I'm bringing this is the Jjust, Linda and Walter. Both of you are not doing the Jjust. Both of you are not doing the Jjust. So it might be difficult for you to really understand where I'm coming from, because what it comes down to is that at some point, you're going to see that none of that is going to really matter anymore. And duality is, yes, where life and death, and those two go hand in hand, but you don't have to be one or the, you don't have to be only one or the other. You don't have to be like the death. You can be life, and recognize there's death out there, but you don't have to believe that life and death have to exist in your world, but it may happen on a micro level. Because when you are regenerating at the micro level with Jjust, there is a life and death going on, but you don't really know it. And so your body is going to have a preference. It's going to say, okay, you know, this cell is not going to measure up to this cell. And you wouldn't call it racism. It would just be a matter of Mother Nature. Okay. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can explain this at the micro level and then how it manifests the macro level. So that way we're not stuck in these paradigms of spitting off, you know, all of these memes and isms and all these things, and what you're saying, like, yeah, duality. Okay, yeah, it's duality, you know, like, you know, love and hate and life and death and all of this stuff. But there is a really profound root understanding that that biochemistry, politics, religion, and science, all of them are based upon how the biochemistry manifests. And racism is just another manifestation of the imbalances where you are only referencing yourself from your biochemical level, translating it into a bad thing, which it can be, based upon the imbalances of each person that is holding these beliefs. And so, if we can reshape society to where we reference each other not from our biochemical makeup, but from what our potential is. And this is the thing I'm creating as we're going, okay? So this is something that's very new to me and obviously new to all of you. I mean, you guys have been studying all the conspiracy stuff, and you've been studying politics and studying science and studying all religions and studying all of the cabal, okay? And all of that. But we have to go deeper. And we have to start recognizing this and exemplifying this. Okay? And start finding a way to express and exemplify the future of where you want the future of society to go. Because right now we're pointing out we're pointing out the hole in the road, but no one wants to patch it up. Like all of you guys that are out there, like, okay, I get what you're saying, but you're recognizing the holes in the road, but what are you doing to patch it up, Linda? I don't think Walter's on here anymore, but what is Walter doing to patch it up? But we have to, so once we understand how the society is made up, what are we doing to change it? Because it doesn't make sense to recognize the problem. Yeah, we have to recognize the problem first. And I've recognized the problem with institutionalized racism, and it's not just the inequality in housing where they discriminate because of your skin color in the community. I mean, it's the fact that you signed forms. It's the fact that that you call yourself white, or what you do that makes you set apart from somebody else. I don't know. You only know, Linda, what you do in your world. I'm not going to go and look at your Facebook and point out everything that you have set apart yourself. I mean, you will know how you operate, but are you even aware of how you operate? See, that's what it comes down to. So it's good to know how, the superficial, what's wrong in our society. But where is your responsibility, Linda? And what have you done to contribute to this? And what are you going to do to solve this in some way? And that takes people getting to know how they operate, how they personally operate. Okay? And so I like people that contribute, trying to help me out with your writing, but what are you doing? What are you doing personally to change your biochemistry, to then change the way in which you relate to the people on your Facebook and in your family, to where it actually changes society where they're not so focused on aesthetics? Is there any solution that you have to, as far as education, as far as, I don't know, what are your interests? Where do you want to see society go? You can only point out the problems of society for so long. What is your solution? But if you haven't fixed yourself, then you're not going to have a solution. You'll just know all the problems and be an expert on the problems. Because I know you're an expert on the problems. I know you're an expert on history, an expert on a lot of things that we've studied on the internet. But what is your solution to, now that you know the problem, what is your solution to change it? And in a lot of ways, in order for people to change, first you have to see what the problem is, yes. But be able to relate. But be able to relate on a level where people around you understand. Not so much of the esoteric jargon from the conspiracy world. But how can you bring it to somebody's level in your world where they get it and they can see where, okay, I see where I contributed, where I see my potential. But it has to be enough of a problem for you to even do that. It may not be enough of a problem for you to make any changes. Maybe it's easier for some people to point out the problems but not do any kind of changing, And so, so I want, because I'm writing about institutionalized racism, and I know it's so pervasive and it's in everything. And when it's in everything, how do you change it? But first you have to recognize where it comes from and acknowledge it and realize that these institutions create racism. And then are you going to take your child and put him in homeschool to where you now teach your kid in a different way? But you have to even know how to to know that you're committed enough to change the course of your child's future, from, instead of being a soldier of an institution of racism, be, a different child that's going to operate in this world where they're going to learn the basics, and then they find the holes in society and they fill in the holes accordingly. Okay? So I have a lot of people on my Facebook that love to notice the problems, but they have zero solutions. And they're not even doing Jilly. They know about Jilly Juice, but they're not doing it. Because I'm telling you, if you did Jilly Juice and you know about these problems, you would be creative enough, because you had mental clarity enough to actually provide some kind of solution that you have access to. Because I don't know what all you guys do in your life. I don't know what your professions are. I don't know what you have access to. I don't even know who you're affiliated with. But all of you have connections to people that have connections to and influences in your society. But if you're only pointing out the problems, but you're not actually trying to create solutions, then what's the point of pointing out the problems? So what I'm trying to do is point out the problems and have a solution. And I did that today when I figured out my own institutionalized racism. But yeah, you could do kindness, Michelle, but kindness only goes so far. It's like, I could be kind to a million people, okay. But here's the thing. From my point of view, and that's your opinion, and that's okay. That's your belief, Michelle. That's great. As far as kindness, okay, you can pay it forward. You can have that, pay it forward. I get that. But in my world, what I've seen when I've changed myself, it's changed my outlook to where I have specific solutions. And my solution right now is to point out the problem and write about it. But this is my my journey. Now you guys have all your journey, so I can't discount what you're doing. But at some point, when are you going to have this solution? And yes, being kind is one. Yes, I get that. Okay. Doing a nice thing for somebody. Okay, I get that. Okay, that's fine. That's not, I don't want to discount that. And everything starts from a seed, yes. We have so many people out there. They're like, oh yeah, be kind to each other. It gets lost in all of the empaths out there. They're all about love, 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 and pay it forward and do it. I want to find something that really is going to resound. And that's like the same thing as, I guess it's like the same thing as trying to be different, and you're not that special. And so it kind of goes to this circle. But how can you reach people that have seen all of that before? Oh, I've seen the pay it forward. I've seen be kind and be kind to animals and be kind to this, do that. We've seen all that, but what could be something different that'll wake people up that isn't going to, I don't know. That's the thing that you guys, because people can be kind all day, but people still are not changing. Is that your expectation? Okay, no, but okay, but is that, so we all have our ways to do it. And I guess if that works for you, Michelle, okay. It's just, there's something more. I know there's more than what you guys can do. And I know it's pretty, I would say that, what is it? I'm pushing you guys. Maybe you guys are playing small. See, I heard someone say, oh, are you playing small or are you playing big in this world? Some of you guys play small. And some of you guys have the capacity to play it bigger, but you're too afraid, so it's easier to play it small and do these little things that, okay, little things make up big things, but when you continue to doing little things and never turns into big things, then at what point do you actually transition from little things to big things? That's the whole thing with a 5-year plan. Okay, you have a goal. What's your goal? Okay, so 5 years, let's just pretend that you want to be a nurse, just for shits and giggles. And you know there's a specific path to be a nurse. Okay, so there's a specific path to be a nurse. It means you have to go and first, if you don't have any money, you got to get a job. You got to get a job. You got to figure out your hours. You got to get housing. If you don't have any housing, you're living in your parents' house. Now you have to get your own house. You got to get a job. Then you got to go get financial aid, or you have your own, you're independently wealthy and or you have an inheritance that's only for college. And so then you go and get college, you go through the college, and then, you get your credentials, you go through all your different, testing and whatever. And then you see this 5-year plan where there's an actual goal where you can actually see a specific measurable result. Okay. And so that's the thing, is that to see a difference in our society, there's got to be something that you have a goal that you want to see. And yeah, okay, you can give money to somebody. You can go and buy groceries for somebody. Okay, that's nice. That's sweet. But is that really going to change society? I mean, when you think about it. Or is there bigger things that you can do to really change society? And that's kind of the thing that I learned about landmark education, because they had specific things that, you see a difference in what your potential, who your possibility is, and then how are you going to have that actually manifest and play out? So people understood that you are actually putting your money where your mouth is. And so I'm not trying to totally be like Landmark, but I want to be able to for people to see how Jjust can really manifest. But you have to be doing Jjust to really get to that point where you see that there's a whole different way that you can approach. And sometimes you just have to do Jjust at such a level where you even see your own body, mind, and spirit change. And it's not so much out there. Hey, Rob. But it's more in here. Okay, so I did a lot of soul searching within me the last 4 years. And I've talked about my personal journey. Not all of you want to talk about your personal journey, that's fine. But there are certain things that you could share with the people, and that what is really resonating, where people, because if you don't share, then how are you going to help others? Okay, when you start an organization, it has to come from somewhere. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go buy a franchise of McDonald's and that's my contribution. Oh, big whoop. Anybody can buy a franchise that has $100,000 or whatever it costs. So if your contribution is to change humanity, it means that you actually have to give up something of yourself. You got to be freaking raw. You got to be personal. You got to show people that Jjust really has you see who you really are and how you operate, and then how that translates out there. But just because you fed a dog and you took a dog in and you brushed him and you were being kind, that's playing small. Anybody can do that. Anybody can be a mom. People can go have sex, can be a mom and raise a kid. I'm going to raise a kid. That's going to be great. Okay, big whoop. What about you? What are you, and how can you measure that contribution to where it really changes the course? And so that's why what I want for my Jjusters is that they actually do Jjust where it changes their biochemistry to where it's not just doing something kind or buying a franchise or I don't know, sweeping the streets, but it's so much bigger. And it's not the same thing that you see all over the internet. It's not the same thing like, oh, I'm going to go and help the homeless. Oh, enable them. What about, I don't know, doing the Jjust for the homeless? Get a bunch of porta potties. Say, okay, hey, you guys want to get out of your homelessness? Well, you got to do Jjust and shit out all of your PTSD, so that way you can actually finally be clear-headed enough to clean up and go get a job and contribute to society. I mean, I don't know. That's just an example. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But this is my project. But I'm just trying to figure out what you guys, that's going to be bigger than something that's just like, feeding the homeless or something. Because there's some people that do that. And some of you have connections. Some of you have influences in different circles. And you could take an industry in a different way. You could say, hey, you're in the government and you're seeing these forms as has the breakdown of race, and maybe that we shouldn't be focusing on that. But then it's deeper than that because people get funding. And when you get funding, race is a major, major component. So is that a battle worth fighting? I don't know. But these are the things that when you're when you're in a specific industry and you're doing Jjust, and you can see where you could try to change that industry to where it's not so exclusive and so where you can see all the connections. So what I'm doing is writing about the connections in our society, in politics, religion, science, body, mind, and spirit, now institutionalized racism. And then what is racism actually? It's when people have visceral gut reactions to people based upon different biochemistries. And then people who don't know how to articulate will go the lowest hanging fruit because they don't know that they have a biochemical disconnect. And so that's why they don't like each other, but they'll go to the nearest lowest hanging fruit, which is race or skin color or ethnicity or sexual orientation. And so so this is my way of explaining why we have such conflict in our society. And so I just want you guys to just think bigger. Think bigger than just point out the problem. Think bigger than just being kind. Okay, yeah, I can be kind, but is that big enough? Is that wow enough? Yeah, the little things, but if you do 2 teaspoons of Jjust every single day, and the system is and the environment is so aggressive, that's not going to be enough to change anything. It's when you take a quart or 2 quarts or 3 quarts a day, and you have the time to do a bunch of waterfalls, and you start seeing the changes in your body, and you notice how different your thought process is. You're not playing small, doing a teaspoon or 2 cups a day, or even a quart a day. Maybe you're doing 1.5 quarts a day. Maybe you keep pushing yourself, and you eat your food. You drink your water, and you actually see a difference. And then you write about it, and you contribute to the Jjust community by showing people that, this is what's changed in me. This is what I've solved in myself. And you don't have to go so personal, but you can leave names out or talk in a more of a third person or however you want to be, or you do it anonymously, send it to me, and I can put it out there. But some of you are playing way too small. And it's obvious. Because you're not thinking in a different way. You're not thinking in a different way. And that's how we get this information out as far as Jjust and the potentials, because you guys are going to be the ones that are going to influence your community to see that we don't have to keep circulating in the cesspool of crap of the same social issues. But just point out, okay, Operation Mockingbird, okay, great, yeah, it's, I want you guys to do more than just point out the problem. I want you to do both. You point out the problem and actually find a solution or talk about your solutions. But that really takes commitment. And some of you are busy, I get that. But at some point you're going to have to devote your time to healing, because how are you going to change society? Right now so many people are so upset, and we have, these schools and we have COVID, and we have, people that are very, very raw and very, very angry and very, very violent. And we're going to bring our kids back to these schools, and no one has figured this stuff out. And no one's really willing to talk about Jjust in a way that makes sense. So, I don't know. I just want you guys to start thinking bigger. I want you guys to thinking bigger. I want you to start thinking that you have a lot more responsibility to humanity than how you're playing. But you're also, I know that some of you, that don't want to be that. But there's ways that you can be big without being obvious. I'll stick your neck out so hard to where someone lops it off. Because you can write me an anonymous testimony and tell me exactly, without giving me so many details, what's going on, and then I could put it out there and I leave your name off and no one will know. Okay? No one will know. So it's like, I don't know. You guys will figure it out, but this whole thing with racism is in everything, and it's totally, totally insidious. And so my next book, not the one that's coming out this month, but the next one is, I'm going to talk about the racism and the mind control and education, and then the cancer, disease, and chronic illness and racism is actually very inherent in the educational system. And that is why we have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and we have racism, because it's already institutionalized in the educational system. And we have to recognize that before we try to find a solution, but you have to recognize that first. Now, it's nice to know about all the cabal, okay, and the DNC and Soros. Okay, great. Those are rabbit holes that, okay, they're fun. But when I really simplify things on how racism comes out and translates, and then you're doing the jilly juice, and then you're seeing where you have some kind of control in the matter, whether it's taking your kid out of school and homeschooling, or finding a different solution, like, hey, maybe I'll go into education and only teach math and English without slipping in propaganda, and then figuring out, how can we teach our children to then fill in the holes of our society and find a way to make it better without subscribing to the isms in our society, because that's what these colleges do. They take the kids, they turn them into this minion of the system, and then they recycle them, and then the kids die in the system. That's what's going on in all of your families, is that your kids are going to be turned in the system, and then they're being tossed out. And then your family is going to go through cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and so will your kids at some point, and no one's making any changes because no one's getting off the damn hamster wheel. But we have to be able to give people some kind of idea that, yeah, it's going to take time. Yes. But first we have to recognize what the problem is. And I'm not saying to get rid of education altogether, but there's a way to change it. And that's where I get it now. Okay, so I'm gonna write about that. There's a way in which we can teach our kids to have the basics in our society: how to write, how to read, how to do math, how to balance your bank account, how to go on a computer, how to fill out a tax form or whatever. And then go off and meet the world, see the things that are lacking, and how can you make a business by filling in the blanks of our society. But it would take a very clear-headed parent as well as a very well-raised child to be able to tackle that kind of plan of action. Because a kid is not going to know what is wrong with society until he or she gets out there and does it in a safe manner. Because right now, I'm telling you what, it's crazy out there with human trafficking and all of the Antifa and all of these different political action groups that are very, very violent. There's got to be a way to be able to, and that's where the internet comes in, where you just read and read and read. And Emily goes, I know I would react in, thanks Rob, I know I would react in a very one-sided way before, since being on Jjust for over a year. Consistently, I found my emotions are much more stable and consistent. And I had my emotions consistently, and it related to my thought process. Vicky, this whole thing with the New World Order, you can create the New World Order. Those of you that are so into that it's a bad thing, right now, death and reproduction is like a continuous cycle, okay? And Vicky, you have influence in this New World Order. You don't know how much power you have. You have diminished yourself into being disempowered because you are looking at this whole change from a very negative point of view. Yes, it sucks that when you are dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and you're doing the Jjust and you're doing the waterfalls and you have pain, that sucks. But that is the purging out of the nasty cells in your body. It's not going to be comfortable. Let me tell you, evolution, me pointing out BLM yesterday, and I got slapped on the hand by people in the Black Lives Matter. And they're like, you know what? You have no business talking about BLM if you're not black. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Because I was telling somebody that was white that they don't have any room to talk about BLM if they're not black. And everybody's right. Okay. And so, so you can change that course. You have every ability. You have every ability. It's the school change you're mentioning should be, It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. There's so many things out there that could influence your child, but you as a parent have the most voice. It's painful to go through an evolution, Vicky, but you have to do the Jjust at such a level to where you actually feel the pain. Okay? And the New World Order could actually be whatever you want it to be. But obviously the old way is not working. And so they are doing the upheaval. So there are rioters out there that are pissed off at the very, very rich, that there's so many stores that are out there that have so much merchandise that are killing animals and doing it. I mean, whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, right now, the way society is today, it isn't working. So we have to overhaul the system and put in a new one. Every single one of us has that possibility to change it. Not by giving money and enabling someone's learned helplessness, but what are you going to do to teach people how to change the system to where it works for them, where they're not continuously struggling, where you're not always looking at it from a negative point of view. We have no control over what happens with Trump or what goes on with Antifa or what goes on or with any of the Soros and the DNC. We have no control over that. But once we recognize this is what's going on, now we can change it. But you have to have the biochemistry to do it. And if you're not doing Jjust, it's going to be very difficult because you're going to be still circulating in your traumatized PTSD of cells that you haven't purged out yet. Because when you start regenerating, new ideas come up. You can't change your neighbor. You can't change your parents. You can't change people that keep wanting to diminish you. So either you walk away or you ignore or you change it. So the NWO doesn't have to be a bad thing. But right now you are looking through the eyes, the lens of people who are really messed up, knowing there's a problem, but they're very messed up in reporting the problem. And now you have to differentiate whether or not you're going to take on their emotions around it or are you going to convert it. And so you're watching me go through that process of trying to convert some very negative emotions out there, like the looting and watching Fox and watching CNN. I'm like, oh my God, I got caught up in the emotions. And wow, did I really, I was crazy yesterday, but everybody was the last couple of days. It's been intense. And then once you finally deal with all of those emotions and then you finally you start flying straight, you start seeing, okay, it's not as bad as we think it is. But you still want to be prepared for the worst, but hope for the best and have some faith that your government and your neighborhood is not going to completely go to fucking shit. Excuse me. Sorry. But you know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying is that if you can point out the problem, but simultaneously, so instead of just doing a detox and just purging out the bad stuff, okay, and then you're not regenerating, if you can point out the problem and then simultaneously be the solution in a way that makes sense, that is bigger than what you've ever done before. And even if it's just changing a relationship that was so bad, or even if it's just walking away from a relationship that's so bad, something that's going to change your life and change the course of somebody else's life to where it's almost unrecognizable, but you don't want to totally, shock somebody. But within your power, what are you going to do with the Jjust to make it to where it makes sense why you're doing it? Because what's the point of doing Jjust if you're not making changes? I mean, there's no point, right? Yeah, societies and their constructs are built by people and can be rebuilt by people. Don't believe in your own helplessness anymore. Make your own world. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. But when you're still watching all those videos, Vicky, when you're still buying into all of this conspiracy stuff and the negativity, it permeates your brain. And then you're like floundering. And, you're not doing enough Jjust to get you out of that. And so then you start turning into the very people that you are railing against. You turn into the negative energy that's out there. But it sucks because you see it out there, but you can't change it, but you stay away from it. I'm not going to go out to the protests. As much as I would love to speak and talk about Jjust out there, oh hell no. It's uncontrolled. The only controlled way I can get my point across is through Facebook. Because I take 100% personal accountability to what I say. And when I misstep, somebody lets me know through email and then I will acknowledge it and deal with it. And then I fly right and fly straight and stay consistent with my message. Which means I'm constantly working on myself. And it takes work. It takes work to change yourself, to change society. But that's the whole point of Jjust. It's not easy. When I drink the Jjust, I know I am really steeling myself for my body to go through that upheaval for that minute, because it's not easy drinking Jjust. But the reason why is because there's so much energy involved with it. And when you have that much energy involved, it's a lot of work because your whole system is going through a change, of which then you will feel the difference. Okay? So anyways, I gotta write this. But I want you guys to see this. The reason why I went off on this tangent, because I want Linda to be bigger than just pointing out the problem. I want Vicky, you be bigger than just pointing out the problems in our society. Any of you that are pointing out the problems, where is the solution simultaneously? Where is the purging and the regeneration? Purging is noticing the problem, but regeneration is actually having a solution for the problem. That's the Jjust. We're not just purging and doing a detox or an antibiotic. We're also simultaneously regenerating. And when you have a solution to a problem that really makes sense for everybody, it's not discriminatory, that's cell regeneration. That's developing a new society. But that only can come from someone that's doing Jjust, because those that are not doing Jjust are going to circulate in the same cesspool of their own PTSD. They can't get out of their biochemistry because it's programmed into them. That's why you have racism. It's programmed into you. Your biochemistry now, if you're not doing Jjust, you are programmed from when you were a very small child in the womb to today. And you won't see any you might see a little gradual progression of changes, and then you'll see a decay. And that's what happens right now in our society. Is people are progressively, they are maturing. Like your kids just graduated high school, right? They're 2020 grads, they're maturing, and then they get to an adulthood, and then they start degrading. You're watching your body degrade. That those are not on Jjust, you're watching your body degrade. You're watching your hair go gray. You're watching, other health issues that are going on. But with Jjust, those are on Jjust. We're not degrading. We are actually evolving on a continuous basis. And when you go through the pain of the evolution, you start growing and you start developing, and then you start creating a whole new landscape. And some people are even more creative on Jjust, because now they can tap into other parts of their emotions or parts of their brain and their body that they never knew existed, and it helped them be more creative in their writing, in their imagination. Jjust has given people a lot more of mediums to work with, because you're not limited to what you think you can do. Many people will only go up to this point because they've been told they can only go up to this point. And so with the Jjust, it'll actually help you break through those limitations. And so, so landmark education, that course was 50% of the equation, because they weren't like, they're like, the allopathic holistic. They can temporarily put a Band-Aid on the problem, and you may get temporary benefit. Landmark education is a seminar series I took back in the 90s that really had me look at life in a different way. But there are certain tools and technology that they had as far as just how you think that I did remember, and others that I've forgotten before Jjust. And now with Jjust, I remember actually most of the stuff. But with Jjust, now I can physically actually understand change and intention and outcome and specific measurable results. And I can measure what I'm doing, and I can see it through a specific process where there's a goal at the end. Okay, so that's what I'm asking for all of you, is to have a goal on Jjust for yourself, and then for your community, and then for the world. But first, you got to have a goal for yourself, If you don't have a goal for yourself, then you're just flailing about doing kind things to everybody. But you're not actually really putting Jjust to the test, and yourself for that matter. So, I'm always right now testing myself on the Jjust when it comes to writing this next book, and trying to say the same thing in a different way, and finding the connections and finding different ways to say the same thing, and and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I get it now. I see the connection. I can say it this way. These guys will get it. These guys may have a problem, but I can try to say it a different way where they get it. And it's the creative process. And so at some point, is Jjust going to spark the creative process in some of you? Some of you already have a creative process, but your body's going to shit. You have cancer, you have disease, you have chronic illness, you're only at this level in society and you haven't really gone forward. Maybe you have a book out there that is only getting to this point, and you've hit a wall of where you can market it, and you don't know how to get past that. And yeah, it takes money, but even money isn't always that. I mean, it's like some people don't know how to get to that next level because their biochemistry has stopped them from getting to that next level. And so Jjust gives people the access to get to the next level because they didn't even know that some of their biochemistries have actually put a block in their capability, in what they think would be their incapability, but they're actually capable, but they never knew it. Okay? Because of past issues. Once I figured out my issue with my mother, I jumped to the next level. Once I walked away from something that was not serving me, I jumped to the next level. Okay? Some of you have seen that, some of you haven't through my whole evolution. And so that's what I'm looking for is all of you is you do some really amazing things in your life to where you jump to the next level of evolution. Whatever that is for you, I have no idea. But I mean, just, I don't want you to sell yourself short, and I don't want you to not get the benefits of Jjust. There are some major revelations you all could have if you increase your intake. But some of you are playing small and doing it small, but and maybe it's a fact that some of you are eating and drinking foods that are undermining you because of your imbalances. Hey, Gail. So, you guys have to figure out how you're going to balance out your diet and your biochemistry so you can reap those benefits. So when I took away the diet, well, there's no diet. Yes, now you have more freedom because I'm not trying to be an overseer and be your mom and tell you can't have this, you can't have that. But now you got to be personally responsible. Should you be drinking? Should you be eating all of this sugary foods if you're obese? Should you be staying away from sugary foods when you should be eating them because you're so underweight? I don't know. You all will know your issues. But some of you, need a bit more discipline. Okay? Because it's fun being a part of Jjust, but if you're not getting any benefit, if you're not getting any benefit and you're not seeing it and it's not obvious, then why do it? Jjust is a destination drink. It's not something that you just kind of like, It's something that you have an intention that there are specific goals that you want on Jjust. Some of you said you're not going to do Jjust. I've come to terms that Gail Demarest is not going to do Jjust for her Lyme disease. I'm not convincing Gail anymore to do Jjust. I know, Vicky. I know what you're going through, and I'm okay with it. I'm not mad at it. I know you're going through your own battles. And I know all of you are going through your own stuff. But I'm not going to convince any of you to do Jjust. But I know some of you have said, I'm not going to do it. I'm done with it. And I get it, Gail. You're done. You like the Jjust, Gail. I know you like it. I know you like the ideas. You like my ideas. You like my thoughts. But it's not for you. Or you would be doing it. And so I get that. So I don't get caught up anymore or triggered by some of you that say, okay, I love Jjust, but you're not doing it. And you're having all these issues with your Lyme disease. And you went to your doctor and you're getting antibiotics. And I'm like, okay, fine. I used to get triggered by people that say they love Jjust, but they're not doing it, and then they're promoting all these other things. And I'm like, okay, that's their journey. Because, you know, when people are that disconnected with their body, mind, and spirit, their mind likes the information or their body likes the information, but they can't bring themselves to actually put it into fruition, into existence. And that's the battle that people have out there. So it's good to recognize those that are in that battle so you know what you're up against. So Gail's in that battle. Vicky might be in that battle too. And so it's not a bad thing, but recognize that this is a battle. And sometimes that battle, you may not win that battle. And so I get it, Gail. You're not going to do Jjust. I understand that, Gail. I still accept you as an equal, and you have different capabilities, different belief systems, and I understand that. So, so it's nice that you support me, and I want more, but it's not my journey. It's not my journey. And so that's what I've come to terms with, is that, there are people in my world that, yes, that they love it, but they're not going to do it, and I get it, and it sucks, but I can't force it down their throat. There are only a certain people that understand Jjust and will do it and will find the actual benefit and report on it. And they're very few and far between, but they're there, and you always have that opportunity. Yeah, there's no diet on the Jjust, though, just so you know, Gail. But anyways, so I've come to terms with a lot of stuff. And so that's my evolution, where I'm not so attached to your guys's outcome and have this expectation. I have to be okay with your journey. And 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 I've been taking on a lot of new issues lately. Okay, I've been taking a lot of new issues. The whole thing with racism and all the things that were going on in the news with Antifa and BLM and oh God, the Democrat National Party and Soros. I mean, and then trying to figure out this whole thing with racism and what it actually means and how it manifests and what's our solution to it and how does it translate biochemically. So I've been really challenging myself, and I've been doing it publicly. And it's not easily trying to evolve and learn and grow up like an infant publicly, because you're going to make mistakes. Okay? You're going to make mistakes. So, but know that you're going to make mistakes and it's okay, and you keep moving on. But you have higher goals for yourself. You have higher aspirations for yourself and your community. Okay? And that's what I want to, at least, if anything, impart upon you, is that you think of yourself enough and your kids and your family and your community enough to where at some point, the rubber's going to have to meet the road. The rubber's going to have to meet the road, and you've got to get something out of this Jjust. You got to get something out of it. And you guys are, some of you are so beautiful, and you're so lucky you're beautiful. Okay? And you're lucky that you have your youth, and so it's okay right now. And then at some point you don't want to see your body go to crap. It's harder to get back. And I'm not saying people aren't beautiful, they aren't doing Jjust and all that. But some of you have it easier to where you can kind of get away with not doing Jjust at the level that you should, because you have great genetics. And I don't want that to be to stop you from getting the benefit. Okay? Because it's harder to climb out of that hole when you allow yourself to get deep into that hole. But anyways, all right. So I was gonna write. So I just needed to get my thoughts out today. I'm probably gonna write tomorrow, I guess. But I want people to see, what actual racism is and what institutionalized racism is, and that's in everything. That's in college. That's in university. That's in foundations, institute, establishments. It's in everything. And so once we see that, then we may slowly change how we refer to ourselves. And the slow changes are maybe to tell the government to stop putting racial differentiations on forms and stop, and I don't know, funding things based upon race. Okay? And And so, that's my other videos, Gail. Go down the line and go watch my other videos, okay? But at some point, I want you guys to see that how it actually works, and that the little steps of just not referencing yourself by race and by sexual orientation and by skin color and by ethnicity. At some point, okay, we can address that and not have that as, something. And that's a small thing. Because if you petition the government to take off those bubbles, those boxes, that those bubbles and those boxes actually are worth probably millions and millions and millions of dollars. Those bubbles and boxes are worth millions of dollars. If we ever really got those taken off, those government forms, then you'd realize that, you know what? They're not making money off of our ethnicity. They're not making money off our ethnicity. So that's one of the biggest things. That makes sense. Because when you think about all these forms that has those racial differentiations and you fill in that bubble, somebody's making money off of that. How? I don't know. But it's there for a reason. When schools are getting paid by the demographics, public schools are getting your tax dollars based upon demographics. That's how much your race is worth to people. So that would be huge if these bubbles and boxes were not even on forms. So that's something to think about. I don't know how to attack that or what other domino effect would have when you take those off those forms, but that's something to think about. That the government makes money off of racially dividing all of you. And then what would it look like if it wasn't even on the forms? Okay? All right. No worries. Thanks, Gail. Took my married name, gave up Jewish name. I was offered much more to go figure. Okay, well, as far as the universities. Okay. Well, anyways, you guys, you have an amazing day. Nice to see you, Gail. Nice to see all of you. I appreciate your contribution. But I want to keep pushing you guys that are supposedly doing the Jjust. All right? Man, it's windy outside and all these pollen. All right. So you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.